Hello, and welcome everyone to our session on qualitative data collection techniques. I'm excited to explore an essential aspect of qualitative research with you today. Today, we're going to be looking at the art and science of using documents for qualitative data collection. You know, when most people think about research, they often picture interviews or surveys right away. That's what the people think about. But there is this incredibly rich source of data that's all around us. And we are talking about documents here. So every memo, every report, policy paper, or even social media post tells us a story and captures a moment in time. What's fascinating about using documents in research is that they are like time capsules. You know how time capsules are. They give us authentic glimpse into how people thought, what they valued, and how organizations operated at specific moments. Whether you are analyzing corporate annual reports to understand organizational culture, or you are studying policy documents to trace the evolution of government initiatives, or examining personal diaries to understand social movements, documents can reveal insights that other methods might miss. So in today's session, we'll explore how to effectively use documents as a research tool. We'll look at what makes a good document source, how to approach document analysis systematically, and most importantly, how to avoid common pitfalls that can trip up even with experienced researchers. So let's explore how documents fit into the broader research process. In this particular slide, you see a hierarchical framework that points out the whole research design process. Looking at the framework from bottom to top, you would see philosophical assumptions as the foundation, research method building on those assumptions, data collection techniques flowing from the methods. Then we have data analysis approach, which determine how we process the data we would have collected. And then the last part is the written record. So the slide makes important points about documentary research. First, while interviews and fieldwork are common data gathering methods, documents provide another valuable source of data collection. Secondly, there's a wide variety of documents we can use. We can use emails, blogs, web pages, corporate records, newspapers, and even photographs. What makes this valuable is that they record either what people said or what actually happened in certain situations. Now, if we look at the work of prayer, you would see that documents are not just passive records. They can be as significant as speech in a social action. And all this highlights their importance as a primary research material. Today, we are looking deeper into using documents as part of our qualitative research process. And we are not just talking about maybe, when we say documentary research, we are not talking about documentaries that may be shown maybe in cinemas or maybe on online platforms like Netflix. You have to think of it as being in a process of being, say, a detective who examines all kinds of documents to try to understand how human experiences and human behaviors are captured in time. All right. So let me break this down in a way that you probably would understand. Imagine you are trying to understand how people cope during the recent COVID-19 pandemic. You might look at how people kept what happened to them in terms of their personal diaries, and these personal diaries will be a primary document. We may also look at news articles, which we would consider as secondary documents. We may also look at what people posted about the pandemic. So, for instance, social media posts, and with this one, we refer to that as digital artifacts. And even the photographs people took during the lockdown period, like visual, and that will represent visual materials. Each of these, either it is a primary document, a secondary document, a digital artifact, or a visual material, all of these tells part of the bigger story in terms of what people experienced during the pandemic. In fact, what makes documentary research fascinating is the scope. So with using documents as part of our qualitative research, we have primary sources, we have secondary sources. Now the primary sources are basically like getting the story straight from the horse's mouth. So you can think of government records, personal letters, or even original photographs. In terms of secondary sources, we'll look at this in terms of what happened, like in terms of what is contained in history books, maybe news reports that are analyzing events that happened at a particular point in time. The interesting thing about using document is the versatility. You can study both what's happening right now, and you can also look at what happened in the past when you are dealing with documents. So documentary research or using documents in research can tell us actually quite a number of stories through different lenses. I already mentioned personal documents, so like the diaries people keep, the emails or letters they have written. All of this will give us intimate insights about what the people did. Then we also have what we call official records. These official records are the government documents, corporate reports that show the formal side of what is happening within an organization. Then we also have what we refer to as mass media, and this involves newspapers, TV broadcasts, and social media that show how information was shared widely. Now, let's look at the historical significance of documents in qualitative research and why they have been fundamental to our understanding of human society and maybe throughout our research process. So let's go through some key points that make documents so important. The first one is providing authentic historical record. When we're dealing with documents, they aren't just interpreting or retelling things. They are actually the real deal. They are actually the real data. The documents contain what was captured at the moment the things actually happened. Then second, we have we also have to note that documents capture unaltered perspective from specific time periods. And this is very important when we look at documents from any era. We are seeing exactly what people may have thought, what they have felt and experienced in that moment without any modern filters or biases. Then third, documents also offer invaluable insights into social, cultural, and organizational evolution. They help us trace how societies have changed, how cultures have developed, and how organizations have transformed over time. Then finally, and this is very important. Documents serve as foundational sources for many research disciplines. Whether we are in sociology, anthropology, history, or any other field, documents provide the basis for understanding human, especially in terms of human behavior and society. Now, let's look at the types of documents. Let's look at types of documents. First, let's consider personal documents. And the personal document, we have three key types. First, there are diaries, letters, and photographs. These gives us intimate insights into people's private thoughts and experiences. Then secondly, we have personal narratives and autobiographies where people tell their own life stories. Then third, and more contemporary, we find social media content and blogs, and these represent modern forms of personal expression. Now, the second category I want us to look at is official documents. These also come in three forms. The first one is government publications and records, and these provide formal documentation of policies and procedures. Then we have corporate and organizational documents. Corporate and organizational documents show us how institutions operate. And then the last but not the least, administrative records. Administrative records capture the day-to-day operational details. We also have another category, which we can refer to as mass media documents. And the mass media documents, we have three main types: newspapers and magazines, which provide contemporary coverage of events and issues. Then we have television and radio content. And this includes broadcasts, shows, and advertisement. Then we have online media content, which represent the digital evolution of the traditional mass media. Then another category, which we should consider, is virtual or digital documents. This also come in three forms. We have websites and digital archives. And websites and digital archives serve as the repositories of what? Of information. Then we have email communications, which have largely replaced our traditional letter writing. And then we have social media data sets, which provide vast amount of data about human behavior and interaction. Now, when we're dealing with the use of document as part of qualitative research, there are some advantages. There are some advantages. Let's consider 5 major advantages. First, we have what we refer to as non-reactive nature of data. In terms of documents, we say documents are non-reactive in nature. Unlike interviews or surveys where people might change their behavior because they know they are being studied. Documents are natural because they were created without any influence from the researcher. Then we also have the second one. Documents offer, one advantage is that documents offer historical perspective and longitudinal analysis potential. What this means is that we can study how things changed over time. Sometimes things can change spanning decades or even centuries. And some of these things will be captured in documents, which will be impossible if we were to use direct observation. Then third is the cost-effective nature of using documents. When we are using existing documents, it's often much cheaper than collecting new data through surveys, interviews, or even experiments. Then fourth, the fourth is accessibility in the digital age. We have accessibility in the digital age. With digitalization and the internet, researchers find it easy to access documents from anywhere in the world instantly and without having to travel. Then finally, we have the issue of permanence and the ability to reanalyze. There is permanence and ability to reanalyze when we are dealing with documents because documents don't change over time. So different researchers can examine the same material, the same document repeatedly. And when they do, they may find new insights to be able to test their different theories. Now, let's look at the other side of the coin. Let's look at the challenges we need to watch out for when we are using documents in research. Let's look at 6 of them. The first is authenticity verification. The question is, how do we know a document is genuine? This is especially crucial when we're dealing with historical documents or digital content where forgeries can be more sophisticated, especially these days. Then second, we face selection bias, especially with preserved documents. We can only study what has survived or what has been preserved, which might not give us the complete picture. So you should be thinking about how many documents were lost or destroyed over time, and then what documents is now available or what documents are now available to us. The third issue has to do with the interpretive challenge. When we're dealing with interpretive challenge, we are emphasizing the fact that documents can be ambiguous and their meaning might change based on context or cultural differences, especially across the different time periods. Then the fourth point is that when we are dealing with documents, we often deal with incomplete or maybe missing context. Documents might reference events or situations we don't fully understand because we're not there when the issues were being documented. Then the fifth one is there are access restrictions when we are dealing with documents. Some documents might be classified, maybe privately held, or maybe even if it is online, it may be behind a paywall, and this can limit our ability to study them. And then finally, we have the issue of quality and credibility assessment. And the question when we're dealing with quality and credibility assessment is how reliable is the source of the document we are relying on, and what biases might have influenced these documents creation. So there are advantages and there are limitations or challenges we have to carefully consider when we are dealing with the use of documents. Now, let's look at our use of it, like critically. Let's explore how to effectively use documents in qualitative research. We'll start by relying on Scott's criteria, which are 4. Scott mentioned 4. He mentioned the issue of authenticity, credibility, representativeness, and then meaning. we have to emphasize that authenticity is the first point we have to check. As a researcher, you need to ask, is this evidence genuine? And is it from an unquestionable origin? This means that researchers should verify the document source and confirm if it is not forgery or if it is not what? Altered. The second one is credibility. Now, in terms of credibility, when examining credibility, you often have to ask yourself, is this evidence free from error? Is it free from distortion? This involves, for you to be able to check this, it involves what? Checking for biases, checking for errors or intentional misrepresentations in the document. Then the third one is representativeness. In terms of representativeness, you have to consider, you have to ask, or probably consider this. Is the evidence typical of its kind? If not, do we know how untypical it is? Does it fall? Is it an outlier? Sometimes unusual documents can be valuable, but we may need to understand how they differ from the norm. Maybe documents, this particular type of document are of some form. If you get a document which is not of that form, then you may have to doubt it. Then we have the fourth issue, which is meaning. And you have to ask the question, is the evidence clear and comprehensible? This involves understanding both the literal meaning and the interpretive meaning of the document's content. It's very important. Now, we also have to consider other things, other criteria beyond scores criteria. And beyond scores criteria, I want us to look at these three additional considerations. The first one is relevance to research questions. Every document you select to use as part of your qualitative research should help you answer your research questions. Then the second one is accessibility and availability. You have to consider practical aspects of assessing and using the document. It may be difficult for you to access it, so you may not have to rely on such a document because you will never be able to access it. Then the last issue is completeness of records. You have to ensure that you have complete documents rather than fragments of the documents which would present incomplete data to you. When we are using documents, there are some ethical considerations. So when we need to consider them, there are 5 critical ethical considerations we must address. The first issue is privacy and confidentiality. We need to be mindful of protecting individuals' privacy, especially when we're dealing with personal documents or sensitive records. Then the second one is we must respect copyright and intellectual property rights. And this means obtaining proper permissions to use copyright materials. And we must appropriately credit the sources. The third is sensitive information handling. Some documents may contain delicate information that requires special care and protocols in terms of how we store it, how we analyze and we report it. The fourth issue is we need to be aware of permission and consent requirements. This involves obtaining necessary approvals to access and use the document, especially for private or unrestricted material. And the last one, we must comply with data protection regulations when we are dealing with the use of documents. Now, I want us to explore how documentary research can work together with other research methods. There are 4 key ways we can integrate documents with other approaches. First, we have the issue of triangulation. So we can look at triangulation strategies. This means that in terms of using documents alongside other methods, we have to cross-verify our findings and so that we'll be able to strengthen our research conclusions by looking at the same questions from multiple angles. The second issue is documents can support interviews and observations. They can help prepare for interviews by providing us with the key background information, or they can verify and expand on what one may learn through direct observation. Then we also have the third issue, which we can also rely on. We can use mixed methods approaches, and this involves combining documentary analysis with both qualitative and quantitative methods to get a more comprehensive understanding of our research topic. Then the last one is the validation techniques. Documents can be used in validation techniques because they can help verify findings from other methods and ensure that there's accuracy and reliability of our research conclusions. Then there's also the issue of quality assurance we have to look at. and how to ensure quality when we're using documents in qualitative research. And there are 5 key approaches we can ensure quality. First, our verification strategies. These are the methods we can use to confirm the authenticity and accuracy of our documents and our interpretations of them. The second one is cross-referencing techniques. This involves comparing multiple documents or sources to confirm information and identify any inconsistencies or patterns. We can also rely on the peer review process. We can have other researchers, our colleague researchers, review our documentary analysis to help us ensure that there's rigor of our interpretations and our conclusions. And then we also have expert consultation. It's not everything that we know. When we are dealing with expert consultation, it means that we can engage with subject matter experts who can verify our understanding of the documents and provide us the context or what the document actually means. And then the last one are the validation methods. Validation methods are systematic approaches which we can use to confirm the accuracy and reliability of our findings from documentary research. As we draw closer to the end of this session, I want us to look at where using documents in research is headed today. There are 4 major trends that are shaping the future of this, the use of documents in qualitative research. The first one is the impact of digitization. The digital revolution, in fact, is transforming how we access, how we store, and how we analyze documents, making vast archives available to us these days because of digital platforms. And we can access vast amount of information at our fingertips. Then there's also the issue of big data integration. Today, we are seeing increasing opportunities to analyze massive document collections by relying on big data techniques. And big data techniques can help reveal patterns easily and provide us insights that were not previously possible. Then third is artificial intelligence in documentary analysis. AI and machine learning are revolutionizing how we process, how we analyze, and even how we interpret large volumes of documents. And last but not the least, we have emerging methodological approaches. There are new ways of thinking about and working with documents these days in terms of how documents can be used in developing or how documents can influence, technological advances can influence how we rely on documents. This brings us to the end of the session on using documents in qualitative research. Thank you.